Hello, Andy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of CoachesCorner.health. I am Leslie Godet, mindset and emotional awareness coach for women. I help my clients achieve self-awareness around their emotional triggers so that they have a better response to those times when those triggers show up, and so that those emotions don't manage them and they end up losing valuable time in their day. Over to you, Andy.
Hey, everybody, welcome to this most powerful chat. It's going to be so much fun today's episode. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm loving it. Hi, I'm Andy. I'm the unconditional coach. I help people around boundaries. I help people set boundaries for any number of reasons. And recently, my focus has been more on relationships to help people set boundaries so that they bring people closer together to help create bonds and strengthen bonds rather than to separate ourselves from each other and ourselves, actually. A lot of the ways that we've been taught to set boundaries in the past have been making things harder. And I'm teaching a different way. That's what I do.
And I love it too, because I think you just really bring a whole flavor that maybe a lot of people don't think about, especially as we've talked about boundaries. Typically, I think most people look at boundaries as a way to put up the walls, but they don't know that
Yes,
they're putting up the walls. They actually
that's
think
right.
those are boundaries that they're putting in place, which are actually meant to keep other people in check, which is really keeping them away. So
Yes.
learning a healthy way to set a boundary, I think, is important. So I love what you do, and I think it's amazing.
Yes, thank you. And it's the same thing with you. I mean, we both love what we do, and what each other does. This is why we do this channel. This is why we collaborate so much. We create so much together. I love this. Our topic for today.
Yes.
You're exactly right where you need to be at this moment, and here's why.
Yeah. Yeah. And I truly believe that because, and I've talked to you about this offline about how I truly think that it's about the timing piece. Because I think a lot of people think, oh, I should be like, as it pertains to business, I should be a lot further along. I had set goals and I didn't achieve them. Like I was supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z by now. And they forget that what they're doing is they're negating all of that growth that maybe they needed over, say, a 12-month period of time, a 2 year period of time, and then they're negating all of that, not realizing that that growth period is actually something that is a beautiful, like, extra layer to their recipe, so that when they
Yes.
actually when they look at what they're doing, what they're creating, it's so much better. And so I truly
Yeah.
believe that time, the whole framework around time and where you should be and how far along in business or where you should be in life, it's really, I think, about the timing of your life, of certain things in your life that may show up better when it's had longer to, like, marinate.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that. It's you are where you are right now because where you want to be, you haven't learned the lessons you need to learn to be there. You haven't experienced the experience need to have. You need to have in order to be in that place, whether that's in a good relationship, or whether that's in a good job, or having running your business, whatever that thing is you drastically crave and really want. You're not there yet because you haven't done the things that are necessary to do to get there, and you don't know what those are. You've done or are doing everything you know you can do. Everybody does. You're doing the best you can. You're doing what you know how to do. And as long as you're willing to do whatever it takes, you will get there.
Mm-hmm.
And our measure of commitment, yours and mine and our audience and anybody listening to this, your measure of commitment is is what are you willing to do to get there? You're where you are right now because where you are is teaching you the lessons, is helping you have the experience that where you want to go. requires. You need to have this before you can get to that. And whatever this is, this might be 5 years of depression. This might be overwhelmed and stressed for months or even years. It might be grieving or struggling. It might be all of those things. It could be anything. It could be success. It could be joy and happiness. It could be all of the wonderful vacations. It could be all of that. In order to get where you are going, all of those things are required. Whatever you're doing right now is required. And what I know, and I can tell you from experience, from really hard experience, is the more I wish I was there, the less I live where I am right now.
Mm.
The harder it is to experience what I am right now, the more I wish I was where I want to be. So if you want to stop feeling depressed or struggling or overwhelmed or stressed or any of those things, lean into where you are right now. This concept of gratitude that we all have, that we coaches talk about, that so many people talk about, that's what it's all about. Live where you are right now, because that'll help you to get where you want to be.
I love that. I love the fact that you touched on that, because so many people are wishing away today because they're thinking about too far in advance, or they're always thinking about, well, tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. And it's like, what about today? That's why I think it's like, if people looked, and this is how I look at it, and I think it's probably when I had this aha moment around like where I should be in life, when I realized that every day is a gift that I get to unwrap and explore, that becomes like, oh wow, right? That becomes exciting.
Yes.
And so if you can look at life that way, then you're not wishing away your tomorrow and your today, and you're actually like engaged in what's happening today, and you're aware around it. But everything that we've gone through in life is set us up to where we're at right now. And when people ask you, well, what would you do if you could do something different? I had this conversation with my husband the other night, and we both looked at each other and said, even through everything that we've been through, we wouldn't change a thing, because it all led to us being here. Could some of it have been a little easier? Sure, absolutely. But to actually go back and look and say, well, I would have liked to have changed this, then how do I know I would have ended up where I'm at? And
Right.
so that's kind of like a question that I now look at saying, yeah, no. If someone asked me that question, I would say no immediately. I don't want to change my past, all of the hardships, some of the trauma, all the traumas, everything happened, and not all of it has been great, but I'm a person based on my life experience.
Yes.
And to say that I would wish away some of that life experience is, yeah, it just doesn't bring me joy to think about that. Even the hard times, because it just shaped me to be who I am and what I do. So yeah.
Yeah. I agree. And the shift for me came when I took that statement to the next level, because I've heard and really do believe, that when we look back and we go and we see all the hardships we've been through hindsight, through 2020 vision, we can say, and a lot of us do, I wouldn't change any of it. And the hard part is when you're in the middle of one of those dark times,
Mm-hmm.
can you look at it then and say, I wouldn't change a minute of it? Because that's the hard part. That's the test. That's the test of your commitment. If you're willing to be in the midst of the hard times, of the struggles, of the living on the streets, of the getting a divorce, of the parents dying, you know, real grief, real hardship, real nastiness, abuse, all of those things. If you're willing to be in the middle of those things and say, I wouldn't change a minute of this, because what's going to come from this, what's going to come out of this, is going to be so much more worth it because of what I am at right now. It's It's wonderful to look back on our lives at all the dark times and say, I wouldn't change a thing. It's an entirely different story to say that when you're in the middle of one of those dark times. And for me, that was the shift. When I was able to do that in the middle of my depression, in the middle of a suicide attempt, I was able to then go, wait a minute, if I can do this here, the guy that I will become on the other side of this is so much more worth it. And that's when I decided I'm in. I'm in. You can't take me away from this. I'm in no matter what it takes. And that's that's why you are where you need to be. Whether you're in a dark place or whether you're on one of the rises, whether you're on the way up or on the way down, whether you're at the top or at the bottom, wherever you are, that is exactly where you need to be. When you're up, when you're on the way up and you're at the top, you're getting the advantage of the lessons you've learned. You're getting the benefits of the experience you've gained. You're getting all the wonderful rewards that you've earned through all those dark times. And when you're on the way down and when you're at the bottom, you're gaining more valuable and critical experience, lessons. You're learning more things. You're remembering what it's like to lose it all, to not have anything, to not have that one thing you crave the most. And that experience is what's required in order to get what you crave the most. So, welcome to it. Dig in. We're here to support you.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's just, and it might be hard to hear that you're supposed to be in the middle of something, right?
Yes.
I found myself in some of those situations thinking, why? Like,
Yeah,
why
me
me?
too.
Why now? Why is this happening? Like, I don't understand and I've actually asked the question, and I'm sure I'm not alone. What did I
No?
do to deserve this?
Yeah, me
And
too.
so, but the thing is, it's not. I've learned to look at things less as a punishment, and as you said, more as something to find out who I am, what I'm capable of, what I'm
Yes.
willing to do for myself, as far as like how much I will do for myself in a way of, do I give up or do I find a way through? Finding that sliver of light to guide me through it. And so, when we talk about you being in those dark moments, we're not saying that you stay there by yourself
No.
at all. This is where you do reach out for that support that you need from your closest circle, that the people who support you. And if you don't have a close circle like that, there's no time like the present than to start building that, because
Yes.
you will find you will find solace when you have someone that that you can call up in the middle of the night, and they won't
Yep.
question you, but they'll be there for you with support on the other end of the line. And those people are extremely, extremely valuable to have in your life. So you're going through those moments. And on top of that, we all, as it's in our nature, I believe, that we do want to actually help. So when someone's going through something, it's almost like we put on our, oh, I'm caregiver hat, time for me to like be there for you. And so we've talked about this before, when you
Yep.
don't allow those people in your life, especially the ones that really care about you, to support you, it's almost like you're saying to them that they're not good enough to support you. And you're
Yes.
saying to yourself that you're not good enough to be supported. And
Yep.
so I learned that as an example years ago before I got into this space. I had been going through a rough time. My husband had had a major car accident. He was in the midst of a depression. I was sort of in that depression because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't help him. He shut me out completely. And so I shut down, meaning I just kind of went into my own little world of not letting anybody in, not telling anyone how I was feeling, suffering in silence on my own. And one day, out of the blue, one of my friends called me, and she said, I hadn't heard from you in a long time. So I got your number from one of my family members, and I was just worried about you because it had been quite some time. I hadn't reached out to anybody. And so it was so welcoming to
Yes.
have somebody who actually cared enough to seek me out to find out,
Yeah.
she cared enough to know, is she okay? So
Yeah.
having people like that in your life, they truly do want to help you. And so it's having that circle. And so I learned the value of that. So having that circle, I've actually started building that and creating that and bringing more people into that. Of course, I also make sure that I'm bringing those qualities too. But what a valuable lesson for me to learn that I was actually allowing myself to isolate and
Yeah.
be so lonely and suffering in the silence because I couldn't. I felt like I was abandoned. My husband was in a major depression, no fault of his own, but I couldn't
Right.
help him, and I had no one to help me, or so I thought until I got that phone call. So it's really important. Don't isolate yourself. Like that's why it's important to have those people in your life
Yeah.
that you can trust.
Yeah. Yeah. And to a point you said near the beginning of that is we do it for two reasons. We don't think we're important enough to get that support, or we don't value that person enough to believe they can support us. And both of those things are internal thoughts. We don't say them out loud. We don't say them. We don't even think them directly to ourselves. But they are what's behind the decision. So if you are isolating, if you are, just watching a bunch of YouTube videos and trying to see if you can find out what the problem is, I'm going to challenge you right now to examine that reason. Why are you not reaching out for support? There are people in your life who want to help you. Maybe they don't know how, maybe they're pretty bad at it, but they want to help you. Why are you not reaching out? Is it because you're not worthy, or is it because you don't think they're worthy? And it's one of those two reasons. It always is. People, like you said, want to help. In my coaching community, we have a phrase we call "cape up and clock in." Put on your superhero outfit and go to work. Do the thing that people want you to do, that need you to do, and we're all in. And what I've discovered is that every human being has that capacity, has that desire. We all want to help. Not all of us wants to help all people. Sometimes the only person I want to help is my spouse or my children, but I do want to help. Sometimes some of us want to help the whole damn world. And most of us are somewhere in between there. And if you are isolating, there is people in your life who want to help. I promise you. Why aren't you reaching out to them? Ask yourself those questions. Is it because I'm not worthy? Or is it because I don't think anybody in my life is worthy? Because those are judgments that you are secretly holding inside that you're not even saying to yourself. Maybe you are saying them to yourself. And ask. Because when you ask those two questions, the answer will free you to reach out. As soon as you know what the reason is, you can say, actually, I don't want to follow that reason. I don't want to use that reason. I want to make something different. And this is why most of us don't reach out, is because we're saying those things secretly, privately in our subconscious mind, and we don't even acknowledge it. But it is there. It's on the surface. It's on the surface of our subconscious. We can know it if we simply ask. So if you're struggling, you are right where you need to be. And you don't have to be there by yourself. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't be there by yourself. There are people who crave helping you, who you know, who want to be there for you. Let them help, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think also to add to that as well is as maybe the disbelief that of their own worth or that the other person's not worthy enough or not capable, whatever those thoughts are. I think some of it also comes down to shame because we think that if we're in that mindset where we're believing that, oh, this
Yeah,
person couldn't possibly help me with this, or I'm not good enough to receive help, a lot of that, it comes down to the shame piece as well. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
yeah, and again, this is mainstream now. So I want you to
yeah,
know that this self development is mainstream, meaning more and more people are learning about it and they're starting to incorporate it into their lifestyle. And I believe it is a lifestyle. I've
yes,
adopted it as my own lifestyle.
me too.
It's not some a new fad. It's not like a one and done thing. It's an everyday process. It's an everyday
Yeah,
practice. And I like having this type of lifestyle
yeah,
where I'm thinking, I'm being consciously aware of what I'm thinking. And again, being okay, knowing I'm going to go through those moments where, yeah, I don't like where I'm at, but it is where I'm supposed to be right now. Obviously, there's a lesson here for me to learn, and really doing that inner work and reflecting on it. And you
yeah,
did allude to that one piece, which is the questions, because I think questions are powerful. But it's figuring out just one thought at a time, one question at a time leads to another more powerful question, and then you can start really like trusting yourself, because maybe it comes down to trusting that other people maybe you don't trust easily. I can get that because I never used to trust people either. Like I
yeah,
did have an internal battle for a long time of trying to be okay with trusting other people into my inner circle, into my most vulnerable self, allowing them to see that and sharing everything about me in a way that where I didn't feel shamed by it, but to feel empowered by my story. Your story is powerful, and wherever you are in the story of your life, because you're writing it every day, is okay. You're meant to be where you're at, and you learn from that. And there's always a lesson. And believe it or not, the lesson that you learn from that may be something that someone close to you will need help with, and you will already have found an answer that could help guide them, could help lead them. So, don't discount that you're thinking that, oh, why am I here again? Why is this happening to me? Why am I going through this? Or thinking that I can't ask for help, so because I'm too ashamed by what's going on. I don't trust people, so I'm not going to
yeah.
give them an inner, even like the chance to comment, because I know they're going to criticize or judge me. It's
Or they couldn't understand anyway.
couldn't understand anyway. But finding those people that and it might only be one person or two, or
Yeah,
maybe possibly three people that you trust. Listen, I've got five people right now in my life that I trust so completely to share my life with. And
yeah,
all of them, every single one of them is not a direct family member.
right,
Okay. So
right.
that goes to show that it's not about having the family, your family, have as being the ones as well that you would reach out to, or being in your inner circle. Can be anybody,
Yeah,
people who you choose, who you feel comfortable and confident around, right? So,
yeah.
yeah.
And that can be family, but it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be family. For some people it is, for some
Yeah.
people it's not. I'm the same as you. My most closest relationships are not family.
Hmm.
Um, However, I have a few clients whose closest relationships are mostly family. It's not that one or the other is right or wrong. It's that it's that don't stick to one particular group of people to look for who your closest people are. For example, I have some closest people who are not even coaches. I've been saying for a couple of years now that all of my best friends are coaches, and that's only kind of true. Most of my best friends are coaches, but not all of them. So don't just look to one group of people. Don't just limit yourself what your options are. If there are people that can help you, let them help you. And trust me, just because you judge they're not capable of it doesn't mean they don't want to try. And only by trying will they learn how. Only by you letting them in will they learn how. You might not trust them to be able to do it properly. You might not trust their motivations. You might not trust their methods, but they want to try. And the more you let them try, the better they'll learn how. And this is what creates the path out, the path up the hill. This is what creates the joy, the happiness. This is what creates the result you're looking for when you get there. Wherever there is you're trying to go, this is how you get there. You help other people learn how you need support, learn who you are, how you let other people help you discover who you are. You create collaboratively with other people. You do something. Even if the only thing you create is a conversation between the two of you. That's enough. That's all it takes. We're not meant to do this alone. As a matter of fact, the darkest times we isolate because we can't feel the darkness if we're in company with other people. The darkness isn't so dark when other people are loving us. And sometimes we just want to feel the darkness. And that's okay. If you want to feel the darkness, admit that that's why you're there. If you want to feel the darkness, if you want to feel sad, admit that that's why you're there. If you want to be there, then you clearly don't want to be where you're talking about being, where you say you want to be. And that's okay. Again, you're right where you're supposed to be because this is what has led you to this moment. Everything, every decision, every action you've taken, every thought you've had, every emotion you've felt, they've led you to this moment. You're supposed to be here. Your brain, your subconscious, your emotion, your body, your soul has led you here for a reason. And you won't get out of this until you have that reason. You might not know it intellectually, but you will have it in your body, in your soul. And when you have that, you'll be on the way out. And you and I've experienced this so many times just in the past year of our friendship together. We've
Mm-hmm.
experienced this. The ups and the downs, the valleys and the hills, the mountains. And I tell you the it's scary going down, but it's a lot less scary knowing I have support. Knowing I have people I can call and say, I'm going through the stuff. And you and the rest of my people are there and say, I got you. And I don't feel so bad. The valley doesn't go so deep. This is what it means to do this work. This is what it means to have support. This is what it means to create something with other people. And you have people in your life who want to do that with you. I promise you. Everybody does. So all you have to do is decide how committed are you to the darkness versus how committed are you to doing what it takes to get to those mountaintops.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah. And
We're on this
knowing you're
journey.
gonna and knowing that it's just a fact of life. It's a process. Life isn't,
Yeah.
it doesn't show up in a pretty little package and oh, this is what I've chosen, so this is the path I've chosen and everything's gonna be
Yeah.
amazing. There are gonna be amazing moments and there are gonna be low lows, but it's what you decide in those moments to be what you want to, how you want to go through it. So again, you talked about being in the moment. I've been in some moments, I like to call them my uncomfort zone moments.
Yes.
I've been really confused. I have been really confused because I've lost my way last year, trying to figure out what I wanted to do.
Yep.
How with my business, I wasn't sure. I was really, really unsure of who I was serving, how I wanted to serve them. What did I see for my business going forward? Do I still continue being a coach? And I had been thinking this way, and I had been in these uncomfortable spaces multiple times last year. But I looked back, and as I did an annual audit, and I realized all of those moments allowed me to become really quiet. I had to become comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's really kind of like what we're trying to say is
Yes.
becoming comfortable in those uncomfortable moments when you don't have all the answers, you're trying to figure it out, and if you want to stay in the space where you're actually contemplating what's going on before you reach out for help, like you don't want to stay there too long. But if you do that, number one, don't make it wrong because
Right.
sometimes we just need that time to reflect. I've told Andy this before. I'm the type of person that I need to marinate on something for at
Yeah.
least a day. And that's just because in the moment, sometimes my reaction might not be really the most authentic. And that's
Right.
just And it doesn't mean that it's not authentic in the moment. It just means it's not really that authentic to really my purpose, what I want to do,
Right.
like how I
Right.
does it really align. And so I've come back to at times and said, hey, you know what? I'm actually thinking this way,
Yeah.
and changed my mind, and it's okay.
Yeah.
You actually are allowed to do that. But being in that uncomfortable space, thinking about it, getting those answers, getting clarity, and then reaching out for help has really been so pivotal for me last year that I found my way back
Yeah.
to what I want and to my joy around what I do, to really wanting this to be like it is my purpose, it's my vision, but really having that clarity around it. And that was just because, recognizing that these are moments that we're going to all go through. And
Yep.
I was right where I needed to be in the moment, even though I didn't like it most times. But because I became really super dialed in to these moments happening, that I'd like to say that in those moments when that would happen, I would have these upload downloads, almost as if my body was like I was thinking, and all of a sudden I wasn't really happy at the time. It would happen like at like between 1 and 3 in the morning, and I'd have to pull out my little trusty phone and start typing all these notes out, like putting them into my phone because I didn't want to forget it. It was like magic.
Yep.
It was my upload. I was getting uploaded information. I had to download it somewhere before I lost it, and then I could go back to sleep.
Yeah. And you couldn't sleep unless you did.
And I could not sleep, and I could not sleep unless I did because I was terrified I would forget it
Yeah.
because
Me too.
it felt so valuable. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
happens to us too.
It does. It does. We go through the same dark periods as you do. As a matter of fact, we've both been through some really dark places in our lives, both of us. And the way out of that has brought us so much joy. I mean, the joy we've each felt in our friendships, in our lives, in this collaboration, in this YouTube channel, the joy, the happiness, the love that we get to share with other people, all of that comes from those dark places. And I know you've heard this 1,000 times before. I did. I'm sure Leslie did too. I'm sure you did too. We have heard this. And the one thing I'm going to add to this that somebody didn't tell me when I was in those dark places, you are where you are right now, and that's where you need to be. That's the right place to be because the beliefs, the values, the desires, the cravings, the emotions that you have had up to your life till now have led you here. The experiences you've had, the experiences you've craved, the experiences you've chased are what led you here. And this is right where you're supposed to be because where you want to be is through this place. There's no other way to get where you want to be besides through this space right now. And this is why you are where you're supposed to be because all of your choices, conscious or not, all of your emotions, conscious or not, all of your decisions, conscious or not, have led you here. You believe something else is at play. Many of us believe an external force is at play because we don't see a lot of the decisions that led us here. We don't see a lot of the experiences that led us here because a lot of them are subconscious, but they are yours. When somebody tells you it was your actions that led you here, they're not lying. But what they often don't understand is that you didn't do those actions on purpose. Those actions were a result of something that happened in your life, were a result of some subconscious decision or subconscious emotion. A lot of the things that we've done, we haven't done on purpose, or rather, we have, just not with our conscious reasoning brain. It isn't what we would have chosen to do had we had the choice, but we didn't because our subconscious brain made the choice for us. And so this is why you are where you need to be because although you can learn all you need to learn, your subconscious needs to learn it. And how it learns is different than how your intelligence learns. How your body and soul learn is different than how your academic brain learns. So if you want to get out of this place, stop using your academic brain to figure out what the problem is and let your body, let your soul do what it needs to do. And it needs to experience things. One of those things is support. One of those things is that thing you're denying it, that thing you're robbing it from. One of those things it needs to experience is trust. Trust of you, trust of others. One of those things that it needs to experience is love, kindness, compassion, sharing. It needs to experience those things. You intellectually might believe you have them, but your body, your soul needs to experience them. And in order to go to the next place that you're trying to go to, your head can't do it alone. You do need your reason, you do need your intelligence, you do need your academic learning, but that's only half the equation. You need the rest too. So you are right where you need to be because some of you hasn't finished learning the lesson yet. A part of you hasn't learned the lesson yet. Either your soul knows the lesson and your brain's not listening, or your brain knows the lesson and your soul hasn't heard it. So go learn your lessons. Go do what you got to do. Get in the game. Find joy in the moment. Get the support you're looking for. Experience life as it is now in all of its darkness. And do me a favor, take a lot of notes. Because those of us who are serving you in that darkness, we can't remember the words we used. We can't remember the things that we said. We can't remember the problems that we remember the problems, but we don't remember how we spoke about those problems. So most of us coaches would pay dollars to have those words because we don't remember them. So write them down.
Yeah, no, and I think that's so important. I was starting to think about how to like, it's kind of like hacking your brain, right?
Yes.
Um, as an example, someone I know, I think he's pretty cool, Jim Quick. He's a coach. I call him the brain guy. And what's really cool about him is, he grew up when he was a kid. He was told that he was the boy with the broken brain. Now he's probably one of the most brilliant people out there right now
Right.
when it comes to the mind. But what I really like was that he says, in the way of hacking, as an example, you know, you talked about the subconscious. So when you go into the bathroom and you pull out your toothbrush and you put the toothbrush paste on your toothbrush and you go to brush your teeth, you're typically using the same hand because it became habit because that's what you started with and that's what you've been doing your whole life. You don't think about it. That's subconscious. So you pick
Yes.
up and you just brush your teeth. But consciously, because you're aware of that, how to switch it is to use the opposite hand. And so you're not only hacking the habit, but you're hacking your brain because now it's like, oh, it's woken up. Like, oh, she's using or he's using the opposite hand. And now it feels kind of weird, but now you're now creating something different in your
Yes.
brain. And so that's kind of like, that's what I look at is the same thing, brushing your hair,
Yeah.
use the opposite hand. My husband, as an example, he's right-handed when he writes.
Yeah.
But I think this is a thing I've noticed with a lot of men is that he plays golf left. He's a lefty when it comes to golf or hockey.
Yeah.
That to me is not so much bizarre, but it's just interesting to me because how do you go from your dominant hand to your the way you've always done things to switching it to something that's completely, but he doesn't write with his left, he writes with his right. So it's interesting, but what I'm getting at here is you are switching it up. You might be unconsciously doing something because it's become a habit, and if you are aware of how you typically do it, pick something and do something different,
Yes.
and that could get you doing things differently as well. Maybe you go to work, you drive to work, pick a different way to drive to work, change it up. Changing
Yeah.
up your life, changing up the scenery, changing up your habits is actually not a bad thing
Yeah.
because then it's like you don't feel like the mundane. Maybe you won't get into that, maybe you might have been feeling like a little bit low. And by taking a different route, you ended up finding something, a different way that was actually enjoyable, and something happened that was enjoyable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's what I mean by that. And, like I can even just give a real quick example is that when I first met my husband and he took me back to his hometown on the east coast of Canada, he got so distracted, he ended up on the opposite side of Quebec. And he saw water on the opposite side that he was typically going to see it. And he looked at me and he says, I don't know where I am. But what ended up happening out of that experience when he did pull over and ask for directions, we found another road that was most spectacular, the scenery and the drive. And it took us an extra hour, but out of the blue, we created a memory that would never have happened otherwise. And so that's the beauty of switching it up, hacking your brain by doing something different.
Yes. Yeah. And I saw a friend of mine post on Facebook earlier. I can't remember if it was today or yesterday. She said something about she looks for the Easter eggs in life,
Ooh,
like
interesting.
the little gifts, the little surprises. They're not necessarily wonderful memories that are going to last you a lifetime. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they're just, you know, this little bird on the side of the road that is different than the other birds, or this car driving the wrong way down the road, and although you might remember it a week later, you won't remember it a month later, a year later. You know, just little Easter eggs, things that you go, huh, that's interesting. And they don't have to be big. Some of them are big, but they don't have to be. And she looks for those, and it helps her to change her brain, change the chemistry in her brain, so that there's joy and happiness even in the dark times. And I remember doing that. I would often sit and watch just absent things, just inconsequential things, because when I was feeling in the dark times, those little Easter eggs would get all my attention, because they were sometimes the only bright lights. And this is just another way that you can, like you were saying a moment ago, hack that brain. Focus on something that is interesting. Maybe it's not cool, or maybe it's not wonderful or great. Maybe it isn't a beautiful bird. Maybe it's a piece of trash, or a cigarette butt on a road you haven't seen cigarette butts in 10 years. It doesn't have to be wonderful. It can be anything that goes, anything that makes you stop and go, wow, I never thought of that, or that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Just give you a thought, because that thought isn't darkness. That thought isn't shame and misery. It can just be, huh. And sometimes that is positive enough to change your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you can share with somebody when you do actually get in a conversation with somebody, right? And it won't be consequential. It won't be, groundbreaking, but it'll be what starts a conversation. It'll be a reason you text somebody, phone somebody, visit somebody, right? This is how we can change our experience of our lives. It's how we give our soul, our body, our subconscious mind that ability to gain experience, to learn something. Because how it learns is through doing stuff. And it doesn't mean necessarily doing the thing you think it needs to learn. I want my subconscious brain to learn how to make money, so I'm going to go make money. Well, maybe it doesn't want to. Maybe what your subconscious brain wants to know is that it can believe in itself first. Maybe what your soul needs to know is that even in the dark points, you can pull yourself out. Then it'll open up to making money. Then it'll open up to the relationship you're looking for, you've been craving your whole life. Maybe it wants to know that you will reach out for support when you don't want to. Maybe it wants to know that you can trust even when your trust has been betrayed. Maybe your soul, your subconscious brain, your identity wants to know something that you don't want it to know, that you don't want to teach it, that your reason, your logic is going, yeah, but that's dangerous. That's the whole reason why you're in the place you're in, because it's dangerous to get that experience. But I promise you, the experience that isn't dangerous doesn't get you to the top of the mountain. There's no helicopter driving down, flying down to that valley to fly you back to the top of the mountain. You got to climb.
Yeah, you got to do the work. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't want to. I'd rather just kind of disappear into the moment and hopefully it'll go away. But it can. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can actually ignore it and it can go away for a little while. But I've
yeah,
often, I've noticed, I've seen it, I've experienced it when running away from a problem, it only seems to find me again. So
yeah,
the better thing for you is to allow yourself to sit in the moment, even if it's uncomfortable as heck and you hate it. And you just
yeah,
become comfortable. Okay, I got to be uncomfortable for a bit and figure this out and find those reasons to find your way through, to find the answers that you're looking for, so that you gain that life experience. Because again, being human, we do like to help other people. It's just in our nature. And so
yes,
at some point in your life, that experience that you really dreaded being in, that you hated being in, could have given you the most valuable lesson of all, and that you
yeah,
can share with someone because you learned, you gained incredible value that you can now share that with someone in your life that's looking. And it doesn't even have to be a close friend. Listen, I've talked to people randomly
yeah,
and just had conversations and they're like, oh, I never thought to think this way. And it's just because they're now being opened up to a new world of self-development, which has now become more mainstream. And so it's just being okay with it. Allow yourself
yeah,
to be in the moment. You're right where you're meant to be right now and be okay with it. And if you're in a place where you wish that your life had been a different way, allow yourself to just look at what you have and be grateful for everything that's happened to you up to that point. Look at
yes,
the life you've lived, your life experiences. Maybe something in your story is going to inspire someone else or could help somebody else. And maybe too is that there could be somebody today that needs to hear your voice, and you're reaching out to them, asking for their advice could be exactly what they need in order to help themselves through something that they might be going
yes,
through and can start a conversation. And so being okay with that is, like having that inner circle. That's why we talk about how important it is because, we do have this feeling that we want to help each other, but sometimes we forget that we can lean on each other. We're not meant to be like to go alone, but we sometimes think we have to because, oh, I'm too afraid, I'm ashamed, I don't trust, they're not good, I'm not good enough, they're not worthy to do this, they're not good enough to help me, I can do it by myself, I can do it better than anyone else, I can figure this out on my own, I've gotten this far on my own. But what ends up happening can be a very lonely and isolating place. So even if you're in the moment of a dark place and you want to start climbing that hill, if you can do that with somebody else, it's so much easier and so much more beneficial to not go it alone,
yeah.
you know?
That's right. That's right. That's exactly true. And that's what we're looking for here. And we're not actually telling you to reach out to us. I mean, obviously, we're an option. We've mentioned a few times that our emails are in the about on this channel. Um, if you want to reach out to us, great, that's fine. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about reaching out to those people in your life that you already have in your life, that you know in your life, who want to help you. And a moment ago, you said maybe what they need is for you to reach out to them. You and I have done this to each other countless times,
Yeah.
countless times. When I've said, Leslie, can you just help me with this thing? And we get on a call and you're like, thank you so much. I needed this. Or vice versa. You'll say, Andy. And I'll be like, oh, damn, I was having such a horrible day. And, just being able to serve somebody, being able to help somebody, being able to just be of service, just being able to be needed, be wanted, is enough. Is enough to change the chemistry in my brain, is enough to change my mood, is enough to give me a different experience of my life right now. And I promise you, the people who are wanting to help you have the same issue. They want to feel needed. They want to feel useful. And you reaching out to them gives them that. They might not even know it, but it does help them. Never mind that they can help you. That connection, there's a chemistry that happens when two people talk to each other. There's a hormones in your brain that are released when you talk with somebody else, when you connect with somebody else. And that's what we're talking about here. Those hormones literally change your experience of your life. And all it takes is a conversation. It can be a few minutes, it can be a few hours. I know I've reached out sometimes when I'm in one of those dark places, and we hang up the phone 7 hours later. And I feel like a teenage boy talking to the first girl on the phone I've ever talked to. Because I'm never on the phone for 7 hours, but I've been there a few times now. Because sometimes I just needed to talk. Or sometimes I'm the person they reached out to and they just needed to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm there. I'm in. Right? So this connection is what we're talking about. You are right where you need to be because the thing you're not doing is what your body, what your soul, what your subconscious brain is waiting for you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And while you resist it, that's the way you get to stay in that place. That's how you stay in that place, is by resisting it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to make the choices, right? It's really, and you have to make the choice because no one can make that choice for you. So
Yes.
you can sit in that place, and that's fine. We've said that because sometimes you do want to mull it over, think about
Yes.
it, maybe think about the person that you want to reach out to, and that's fine too. But not allowing yourself to sit in there for days upon days upon end, weeks upon end, and allowing yourself to isolate yourself away from other people because that just creates that loneliness and maybe the depression. Maybe you become very overwhelmed, maybe anxious. Maybe then you start to become angry, thinking, why am I here? Blaming other people, maybe having arguments with people over the silliest of little things. But at the moment, it's because you're in that emotional state. So living in this place is not what we're saying to do. What we're saying is that being in this place where you're supposed to be right now because you're going through life
Yep.
and there's a lesson, there's always a lesson to be learned in the moments when we don't have, especially we have confusion and we're trying to figure the way through. But there's also the gift that you can give to another person that is allowing them to show up for you. Because
Yes.
sometimes, like as Andy had said, sometimes we actually need to be sought after to be the one to provide that that shoulder to lean on. And it's because in the moment in our day, we're not maybe having the best day, but it allows us to like, oh, put on my helper's hat. Let me see what I can do. Let me listen. How can I help you? And that actually increases the levels of gratitude and joy as well.
Yes.
So it's a win-win when you think about it. You're getting the support you need. They're getting to support you, which helps them as well.
Yeah.
So don't stay in that attitude for too long. Allow yourself to look for and ask for help. And and again, is making sure those people in your life really are those people that you have your back, that they truly
Yeah.
will help you. And
Yeah.
then being in that place for them too, holding that place for other people also will help you so that you might actually get a lesson out of that. Because we always learn when we're helping, we always are learning when we're being supported. So
Yeah.
it's win-win all around. And
Yeah.
that's why I love being in the self-development world. It's not to me, it is a lifestyle. I have a new lifestyle which I love. To me, a healthy lifestyle is my mind, body, soul, all pieces, that are nurtured. And so I just for me, self development is has been the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life, in my marriage, for my husband, for him as well, inspiring him and watching how he's growing and expanding his mind and changing the way he thinks and what how he can inspire other people.
Yeah.
It's a ripple effect. And I talked about this in my ladies group, and I talked about how have you thought about what your legacy is going to be, and it's not about what you're leaving for your kids or family members monetarily or physical things, but what how do you want to be remembered? And again, it's also not about keeping score, but how do you want to be remembered? And I when I think about that, it's like I want to be remembered as the person that people could go to, be vulnerable, get the support, whether I'm just listening or if they're asking for support where they want advice. But
Yeah.
I want to be remembered in that way, so because that makes me feel good, because that also creates those memories for me.
Yes.
I go through my life and I look back and think, wow, what a life. I want to live that life. That's why self development to me is a lifestyle.
Yeah. 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 It is a lifestyle, and it's a lifestyle you and I have chosen, and it's a lifestyle we're both happy that we've chosen. It's the lifestyle that fostered this friendship, that created this friendship,
Mm-hmm.
because both of us leaned in at a time where we didn't have to, at a time where we were kind of unsure, at a time where we were, maybe a little bit, uncertain of what our future would look like. We leaned in. We decided this is it.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to reiterate, something I don't know if we've said enough yet in this video. You've said a couple of times now, Leslie, that don't make it wrong that you're in this place.
Mm-hmm.
You are right where you need to be. That's kind of the whole point of this video. This is why I don't think we said it enough yet. Is you're right where you need to be. It feels horrible because you're making it wrong. Because you've decided this is the wrong place to be. I'm not where I want to be in my life. And because I'm not where I want to be, this feels horrible. Um, that dark place comes from 98% from that statement. This is not where I want to be right now. If you were to change that to this is exactly where I want to be so that I can get to where I need to be, where I'm looking to go. I'm happy that this path is what is the path I'm on, because this is the only path that will lead me where I'm going, where I want to go. If you can change your thought to that, the darkness vanishes. The vast majority of your darkness vanishes, because most of your darkness is coming from the judgment you're making about where you're at right now. If you can change that judgment, you can change your experience of where you're at, and you can find more gratitude. And that's hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to do. Sometimes, a lot of times, your support can help you do that. And quite honestly, this is where having a coach comes in, because sometimes you can't do it on your own, and sometimes your support group doesn't know how to help you with that. But your support group can have conversations with you. And if your support group includes a coach, then ask your coach how to change your brain on this, how to get rid of the judgment of it being a bad thing, because that's what'll change your experience of this darkness. I still go through those dark times. I still go through all of that misery. As a matter of fact, some would argue that I'm in a worse place now than I was in most of my years of depression. I wouldn't argue that, but some would, because some of the circumstances that I'm in right now are what most people would hate. I love them because it's exactly what I want to do. It's exactly the situation I want to be in to get where I'm going.
Wow. Well, you see the time. It's actually been one of my most favorite conversations
Me too.
that we've
Me
had.
too. Me
I
too.
think it's important to talk about these things, and I think there's a lot of shame around, oh, people judge themselves a lot based on on our circumstances and based on their social media
Yeah.
experiences. because they see other people in a space where they're not. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate this conversation so much, and I hope that you, as the listeners, got some value from that. Andy dropped a lot of gems. I definitely got to go back and listen to this again. It was great. It was
They
fun.
weren't all my gems.
Well, it was a great conversation to be able to like support each other on this journey that we are on
Yeah.
with this endeavor from
Yeah.
this new look for our channel this year, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I hope that you all are getting value, and if you are, make sure that you subscribe, if you like this video, like it, and share it with your friends. There's going to be a lot more coming your way. We've
We're
got
coming a
so
lot.
pipeline.
We're
So
going
yeah,
to we're going to miss next week.
yes,
Next week we've got something going on, so we won't be on this channel at this time next week. But in 2 weeks' time, and from there point forward, weekly as much as we can, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
yeah,
Thank you
we will.
for experiencing this with us.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and we will see you guys again soon. Have a great weekend.
See ya.